The photograph slid across the mahogany desk with practiced ease. Kane caught it with 2 fingers, not bothering to look down immediately. He'd seen hundreds of these photos over the years, faces of people whose time had run out, whose enemies had deep enough pockets to make them disappear. Lily Bennett, the client said, his voice distorted through the voice modulator. Marcus never met clients face to face. It was safer that way for everyone involved. 28 years old, elementary school teacher. Lives alone in apartment 4C at the Riverside complex. Marcus finally glanced down at the photo. The woman staring back at him had warm brown eyes and a genuine smile, the kind that reached all the way to her eyes. She looked like she'd been caught mid-laugh, probably at some school function based on the colorful decorations visible in the background. She looked innocent, but they all did in photographs. "The target is clean," the modulated voice continued. "No security, no training, no awareness she's in danger. Simple job. $500,000 for completion within the week." Marcus's jaw tightened slightly. $500,000 for a school teacher. That was executive-level money, cartel boss money. Something didn't add up. "Why?" he asked simply. "That's not your concern. It is when the payment suggests this is more complicated than you're letting on." Marcus set the photo down, his pale blue eyes cold. "I don't take jobs blind." A pause. Then, she witnessed something, a transaction that certain people want kept quiet. She doesn't know what she saw, but she could identify faces. It was plausible. Marcus had eliminated witnesses before, though he didn't particularly enjoy it. But the money was still too high for a simple witness elimination. When? 3 days ago, she was jogging in Riverside Park at dawn. Wrong place, wrong time. Marcus studied the photo again. Lily Bennett had no idea she was living on borrowed time, that someone had decided her accidental glimpse of something she probably didn't even understand was worth her life. 1 week, he confirmed. "Wire the deposit." "Already done, the rest upon confirmation." The line went dead. Marcus sat in the silence of his sterile downtown loft, the photo of Lily Bennett still on his desk. He'd been in this business for 12 years, since he'd left military black ops and discovered his particular skill set was highly marketable in the private sector. He was efficient, clean, and completely detached. Detachment was the key to survival in his profession. He spent the next 2 days learning everything about Lily Bennett. She taught 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary. She volunteered at an animal shelter on weekends. She had coffee every morning at the same cafe, always ordered the same thing, vanilla latte with an extra shot. She lived modestly, drove a 10-year-old Honda, and based on her social media, spent most of her free time with her students or her elderly neighbor's cat. She was devastatingly ordinary. On the 3rd day, Marcus watched her jog through Riverside Park at dawn, the same route she'd taken 3 days earlier when she'd supposedly witnessed something. She wore bright pink running shoes and kept her dark hair in a ponytail that swung with each step. She smiled at other joggers, stopped to pet a dog, laughed at something on her phone. She was alive in a way Marcus hadn't been in years. That night, he would make his move. A break-in, quick and quiet. She'd never know what happened. It was a mercy, really, compared to what others might do. But as he sat in his car watching her apartment lights go on at 7:47 p.m., exactly on schedule, like everything else in her carefully organized life, something felt wrong. Marcus trusted his instincts. They'd kept him alive through countless operations, through betrayals and double crosses and situations where everything went to hell. And right now, every instinct was screaming that this job was not what it seemed. He pulled out his phone and made a call to his information broker, a hacker who went by the name Ghost. "I need deep background on a client job," Marcus said when Ghost answered. "That's against your usual protocol." "Yeah, well, the client's lying. I need to know what I'm really walking into." "Send me what you have." Marcus forwarded everything. The client's contact information, the details about the supposed witness incident, Lily Bennett's information. Then he waited, watching her apartment window where he could see her moving around, probably grading papers or planning lessons. Ghost called back an hour later. "You're right to be suspicious," Ghost said without preamble. There was no transaction in Riverside Park 3 days ago, no criminal activity reported, no nothing. Then, why does someone want her dead? That's where it gets interesting. Lily Bennett inherited a company 6 months ago when her father died. Bennett Pharmaceuticals. Small operation, but they were developing something big, a new cancer treatment that was showing revolutionary results in trials. Marcus's blood ran cold. Let me guess. Someone wants that research. Her father's business partner, Richard Shaw, he's been trying to buy her out for months, but she refused. The treatment was her father's legacy. She won't sell. Word on the dark web is Shaw's connected to some serious players who want that research for themselves. Probably to bury it, given that several major pharmaceutical companies would lose billions if this treatment actually works. So killing her gets Shaw the company. And the research. As the surviving partner, everything defaults to him. Marcus ended the call and stared at Lily's window. She wasn't a witness. She was an obstacle standing between powerful people and obscene amounts of money, and she had no idea. He should walk away, return the deposit, turn down the job. He'd done it before when situations didn't smell right. But if he walked away, they'd just send someone else. Someone who wouldn't hesitate, who wouldn't ask questions. Someone who'd make it painful, maybe even make it look like an accident after torturing her for passwords and access codes to her father's research. Marcus made a decision that went against every rule he'd set for himself in 12 years. He was going to protect his target. The lock on Lily's apartment was laughably easy to pick. Marcus slipped inside at 2 a.m., moving silently through her small space. It was exactly what he'd expected. Warm, cluttered with books and plants, photos of smiling students covering the refrigerator. A life well lived by someone who cared about others. He found her asleep in her bedroom, curled on her side with a book fallen open beside her. Even in sleep, she looked peaceful, innocent. Marcus was about to wake her when he heard it, the sound of another lock being picked at the front door. They'd sent a backup, or the client had never trusted him to complete the job. Moving on instinct, Marcus pressed his hand over Lily's mouth as her eyes flew open. She started to scream, but he leaned close, his voice barely a whisper. Don't make a sound. There are men here to kill you, and I'm the only thing standing between you and them. Do you understand? Her eyes were wide with terror, but she nodded. I'm going to take my hand away. Stay quiet and stay down. He released her and moved to the doorway just as 2 figures entered the apartment. They weren't subtle like Marcus. These were enforcers, thugs hired to make sure the job got done. The first one never saw Marcus coming. A quick strike to the throat, a knee to the temple, and he was down. The second one managed to raise his gun, but Marcus was faster, disarming him and putting him in a chokehold until he slumped unconscious. It was over in less than 30 seconds. Marcus turned to find Lily standing in her bedroom doorway, clutching a baseball bat with shaking hands, her face pale. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who's going to keep you alive." He grabbed his phone and texted Ghost. "But we need to leave. Now more will come." "I don't understand. Why would anyone? Your father's research. Someone wants you dead so they can take it." He moved to her window, checking the street below. Clear for now. Pack a bag. Essentials only. We have 2 minutes. To her credit, Lily didn't waste time with more questions. She grabbed a duffel bag and started throwing in clothes, her hands still trembling but her movements purposeful. Marcus watched the street, his mind already calculating safe houses, extraction routes, how long before whoever hired him realized their hitman had gone rogue. "I'm ready," Lily said, appearing beside him with her bag. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something crack in the wall he'd built around himself. She was terrified but trying to be brave, trusting a stranger who'd broken into her apartment because somehow she understood he was the lesser evil. "Stay close to me," he said. "And if I tell you to run, you run, understand?" She nodded. They made it to Marcus's car without incident, but he knew it wouldn't last. The moment those 2 enforcers failed to report in, the whole thing would escalate. He drove them to a safe house he kept for emergencies, a cabin 2 hours outside the city, off the grid and stocked with supplies. Lily was silent for most of the drive, staring out the window. Finally, she spoke. "You were supposed to kill me, weren't you?" Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes, why didn't you?" "Because you don't deserve to die for someone else's greed. That's not usually how hitmen think." He glanced at her, surprised. You've met many hitmen. No, but I watch a lot of crime documentaries. There was a hint of dark humor in her voice, shock manifesting as inappropriate jokes. They usually don't have moral crises. I'm not having a moral crisis. I'm having a practical problem. Someone lied to me about a job, and I don't appreciate being played. So this is about professional pride, among other things. They fell silent again. Marcus wasn't about to tell her that the moment he'd seen her photograph, something had felt wrong. That watching her live her simple, good life for 3 days had reminded him of everything he'd given up when he'd chosen this path. That she represented something he'd thought he could never have: normalcy, peace, genuine human connection. The cabin appeared through the trees, isolated and secure. Marcus did a perimeter check while Lily waited in the car, then led her inside. It was sparse but functional: 1 bedroom, a living area with a fireplace, a kitchen stocked with non-perishables. There's a bed in there, Marcus said, gesturing to the bedroom. You should try to sleep. Will you tell me your name? I'd like to know who saved my life. He hesitated. Names created connection, and connection was dangerous, but she deserved that much. Marcus. Thank you, Marcus. Her voice was soft, sincere. I know you probably just complicated your entire life by helping me. I've dealt with worse complications. But as she disappeared into the bedroom, Marcus knew that wasn't true. Lily Bennett wasn't a complication. She was a complete upheaval of everything he'd built his life around. And he had no idea how to protect her without destroying himself in the process. Over the next 3 days, Marcus worked with ghosts to build a case against Richard Shaw and the people backing him. They needed evidence solid enough to take to the authorities, proof that would keep Lily safe permanently. Meanwhile, Lily adapted to their situation with surprising resilience. She didn't ask unnecessary questions, didn't demand promises Marcus couldn't keep. Instead, she read books from the cabin's small library, helped cook meals, and treated the whole thing with a practical acceptance that Marcus found both admirable and heartbreaking. You're handling this better than most people would, Marcus observed on the 3rd evening as they sat by the fire. Lily looked up from her book. I teach 3rd graders. I've dealt with chaos before. This is slightly different than chaos. Is it, though? Someone wants something I have, and they're willing to hurt me to get it. That's just playground politics with higher stakes. She set her book aside. Besides, falling apart won't help anything. And you seem competent enough to keep us alive. Just competent? For the first time since he'd broken into her apartment, she smiled. A real smile, the one from the photograph that had first caught his attention. Okay, very competent. You did take down 2 armed men in about 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Oh, well, that changes everything. Marcus found himself smiling back, an expression that felt foreign on his face. When had he last joked with someone? When had he last wanted to? Can I ask you something? Lily's voice was quieter now, more serious. You can ask, I might not answer. How did you become what you are? Marcus stared into the fire, debating how much truth to share. I was military, special operations. When I got out, someone approached me with an offer. The money was good, and I told myself I was only taking out people who deserved it. Terrorists, cartel leaders, human traffickers. But that changed. The jobs got grayer. The targets got more ambiguous. And somewhere along the way, I stopped asking questions because it was easier than confronting what I'd become. He looked at her. Until your job, until I couldn't stop asking questions. Why? What made me different? Because you're everything I'm not, Marcus thought. Because looking at you reminds me I used to be human. But he said, because the money was wrong for the target. In my business, when something doesn't add up, people die. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was all he could give her. That night, Marcus woke to the sound of Lily crying in the bedroom. He found her sitting on the bed, arms wrapped around herself, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she gasped. I was trying to be strong, but my students probably think I abandoned them. My neighbor's going to worry about me. Everyone I know thinks I'm missing or worse, and I can't tell them I'm okay because that would put them in danger too. Marcus sat beside her, maintaining a careful distance. They'll understand when this is over. Will it be over, or will I be running for the rest of my life? I won't let that happen. How can you promise that? Because I don't break my promises. Lily looked at him, her eyes searching his face. You're a good man pretending to be a bad one, aren't you? I'm a bad man trying to do one good thing. I don't believe that. Before Marcus could respond, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was brief, tentative, tasting of tears and desperation, and something that felt dangerously like hope. He should have pulled away, should have maintained professional distance, should have remembered all the reasons why connecting with someone in his line of work was a death sentence. Instead, he kissed her back. It was a terrible idea. It complicated everything. It made her more than just a person he was protecting. It made her someone he cared about, someone who could be used against him. But for the first time in 12 years, Marcus didn't care about the tactical disadvantages. He only cared about the woman in his arms who'd somehow seen past the killer to the man he'd thought was long dead. They spent the night talking instead of sleeping, sharing pieces of themselves. Lily told him about her father, about the cancer treatment he'd dedicated his life to developing, about how she'd inherited not just a company, but a responsibility to see his work help people. Marcus told her about his childhood in foster care, about joining the military to escape, about the first time he'd killed someone and how it had both horrified and relieved him, because at least he was good at something. You're good at other things too, Lily said softly. You're good at protecting people, at asking the right questions, at making terrible jokes to distract me when I'm scared. I made one joke, and it was terrible. They smiled at each other in the firelight, and Marcus felt something shift permanently in his chest. On the 4th day, Ghost called with news. I've got everything we need, Ghost said. Wire transfers, recorded conversations, the whole conspiracy laid out. Richard Shaw's been working with executives from 3 major pharmaceutical companies. They plan to bury your girl's father's research and split the profits from keeping the existing treatments on the market. Send everything to the FBI, Marcus ordered. Already done, but Marcus, they know where you are. Shaw hired a specialist to track you down. Former intelligence, very good at what he does. You've got maybe 12 hours before they find your cabin. Marcus ended the call and found Lily making coffee in the kitchen. She took one look at his face and set down the mug. They're coming. Yes, but the FBI has everything they need to take down Shaw and his partners. We just need to stay alive long enough for the arrests to happen. And how do we do that? Marcus pulled out his weapon, checking the magazine. We make a stand. This cabin has good sight lines, reinforced doors, and I've got enough ammunition to hold off a small army. Or, Lily said carefully, we could run. Disappear, you obviously know how. Running means a life in hiding for both of us. Marcus met her eyes. Is that what you want? Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No, I want my life back. I want to finish my father's work. I want to help my students graduate 3rd grade. She paused. And I want to see where this goes with you. Lily, I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other 4 days, and 3 of those days you were technically supposed to kill me. But I've never felt safer or more seen than I have with you. So yes, let's make a stand. Let's fight. Marcus felt something in his chest crack wide open. This woman, this brave, foolish, incredible woman, was choosing to fight instead of run. Was choosing to believe in a future that included him, a man who'd made a living from death. Okay, he said. We fight. They spent the next few hours preparing. Marcus set up defensive positions, showed Lily how to handle a weapon, created contingency plans for every scenario he could imagine. When the first vehicles appeared on the access road at sunset, Marcus was ready. There were 6 of them, professionals, well-armed, coordinated. The specialist Ghost had mentioned was leading them, directing his team with military precision. But Marcus had spent 12 years being better than everyone else at exactly this. The first breach attempt was repelled with controlled fire from Marcus's position. 2 men down, the rest falling back to regroup. The second attempt came from both sides simultaneously, but Marcus had anticipated that, using the cabin's defensive positions to pick them off one by one. The specialist was smart, though. He adapted, changed tactics, tried to wait them out. But he didn't know that Lily Bennett was inside making phone calls, coordinating with the FBI agents who were already en route. Didn't know that every minute he wasted was another minute closer to his arrest. When the FBI helicopters appeared over the tree line an hour later, the specialist made a run for it. Marcus let him go. The authorities would handle him now. By the time the FBI agents secured the scene, Richard Shaw was already in custody, along with the pharmaceutical executives. The whole conspiracy was unraveling, recorded conversations and financial records proving everything. Lily was safe. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood outside Riverside Elementary, watching through the window as Lily taught her third graders. She was animated, laughing, fully present in a way that made his chest ache. He'd given his statement to the FBI, cooperated fully with their investigation. In exchange for his testimony against Shaw's network and information on several other criminal operations, they'd offered him immunity and a clean slate. A second chance. The question was whether he deserved it, whether someone like him could really walk away from his past and build something new. The school day ended, and students poured out of the building. Marcus waited until Lily emerged, then stepped into her line of sight. Her face lit up when she saw him. She crossed the parking lot, stopping just in front of him. "You came back," she said softly. "I wasn't sure you'd want me to." "Marcus, I have wanted you to come back every single day since the FBI took me home." She reached out, taking his hand. "The question is, do you want to stay?" He looked down at their joined hands, at the physical representation of everything he'd thought he could never have. Connection, trust, a future that didn't involve violence and isolation. "I've spent 12 years being death," he said. "I don't know how to be anything else." "Then learn. I'm a teacher. I'm good at helping people learn new things." Lily stepped closer. "You saved my life, Marcus. You gave up everything you knew to protect someone you didn't even know. That's not death. That's the most alive thing anyone's ever done for me." Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only real thing in a world of shadows. "It won't be easy. I'll have nightmares, trust issues. I don't know how to do normal. Good thing I'm patient." She pulled back to look at him. "We'll figure it out together. Normal is overrated anyway." He kissed her then, in the school parking lot with the afternoon sun warming their faces and the sound of children's laughter in the background. It was a kiss that tasted like second chances and new beginnings, like the life he'd thought was forever beyond his reach. When they finally broke apart, Lily was smiling. "So what happens now?" "Now," Marcus said, "I try to be the man you think I am. You already are that man. You just needed someone to show you." They walked to her car hand in hand, and for the first time in 12 years, Marcus Kane felt something other than emptiness. He felt hope. The hitman had found his target. But instead of death, he'd found life. And he was never letting go. Thank you for joining me for The Hitman's Target. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling romance stories. Your comments mean the world to me. Let me know what you thought and what kind of stories you'd like to see next. Until next time, keep reading and stay mysterious.